You say that, I'm assuming what you mean is the agents who are over-promising and under-delivering, you were actually telling them the truth.
And that's where I would say it's so important if you're like out there in the world and you're like, what do I do? Just go. That was probably the biggest deciding factor for me to leave the brokerage I was at before. If you are a developer, if you're a builder, if you are an investor, and you want to sink your teeth into new construction, new development with luxury properties, we have the ways to do that.
Hi, friend. How are you today?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
It's good. It's good to see you somewhere other than church. That's usually where we hang out.
That's right.
Man, I remember when I first met you, I think it was it the Christmas party the first time we met?
Was that at your place?
The place I was renting at the time? Yeah.
No, we first met over at the open house in Van Alstyne.
Yes.
That's right.
So you kind of gave me a perfect segue there.
Yeah.
When I met you, I was selling these spec homes for a builder. And I remember you asking me, hey, how did you get into this?
Yeah.
And now tell us about what you're doing.
I am currently highly active in the new development, new construction, the new build world in the luxury market.
He's being extremely humble. Share one of the most recent deals that you actually put together, from my understanding.
So there is a deal that we just closed on and is projected to list and sell in 2026. Mm-hmm. And this deal was put together by the grace of God. I will say I'll give God the credit. But with that, it was a deal that was developed from a simple cold call.
Really?
Yeah.
Share with us what source that was, how that happened.
Well, the fun thing is I joined this crazy team who was all about cold calling that I was not introduced to in the beginning of my real estate career.
Yeah.
That did not happen. It didn't exist. It wasn't a thing with the other brokerage I was in. But, venturing down the road into this world of cold calling, it led me to a call that, after persistence and continuing to have those conversations and pushing that needle forward, that ended up being a purchase for a client of mine that we're working together on. So, that's really how it started, a call.
Who were you calling back then when you first started making these cold calls?
Who was I calling? I was calling expireds and cancels.
Which are the worst, right?
Which are the worst.
Let's be honest with each other.
Yeah.
The amount of times we get hung up on and cussed out, we can't even count, right?
No, and there's a bit of hesitation still wanting to call because
right.
What's on the other end of that dial.
Yeah.
And so it's really having to get past the expectation of it could go bad, but in my case, it could go great.
So what gave you the courage to even start, being that it was something brand new and you were already successful in another sector of your life?
I think it's just jumping in. You've seen other people doing it and it's working for them and they're being an alive right then and there testament.
Yeah.
It's happening in front of you. And so just going after it, just say, I'm going to do it too. And so then just picking up the phone and calling.
So this one call led to a development deal.
No, it led to a whole nother future of developments. It didn't just lead to another development deal, another transaction. It led to an open road of opportunity.
I got goosebumps when you said that.
Yeah, it's true.
For someone watching who's maybe like, what does that mean? Are you able to break it down a little bit more in terms of what specifically that is?
The initiative to make the call, to then having that conversation and babysit the conversation months at a time to make sure you're still in, right? To make sure you're still there, that relationship's still solid.
Yep.
Right? And continuing To then, making other connections with other people, such as our lending portion, the building that relationship, which came, that's another story. Developing those relationships and continuing to push that needle forward, it did bring me to a realization that the world of real estate is more than one avenue, right? And finding your niche and what works best for you, what gets me excited every day to wake up and go after it, to push past the hangups and push past the stop calling me and
So what I find interesting about what you're sharing is a lot of people will ask, like coaching clients and on lives, they'll say, how do I get into luxury? How do I work with builders?
yeah.
And they're usually looking for some sort of magic formula, like an introduction or some type of thing that no one's ever told them.
Yeah.
And you did the one thing that nobody wants to do.
Right.
And that's what led you there. And it sounds like what made you different was your approach. Are you comfortable sharing how your approach was different? Because I'm sure they heard from 15 other people, but they trusted you and they chose to work with you.
I believe, the reason why they chose to continue to work with me as far as like working the deal out was my consistency to be there when I said I was going to be there, right? And being real and not BSing anybody and giving them a runaround.
So when you say that, I'm assuming what you mean is the agents who are over-promising and under-delivering, you were actually telling them the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell them the truth. I mean,
Was that scary to tell like somebody who's very high net worth, like, hey, this isn't worth what you think it is?
I guess if you play the mental game, you can go there.
Yeah.
But it's just the one-on-one connection. Yeah, I think every person has a history, but they're all human, right? Every high net worth individual is still a human being.
Yeah.
They just have a higher net worth.
So you saw it as service.
It is a service.
You were like, hey, I'm going to be the only person that's not afraid to tell them the truth because I care about them and I want what's best for them.
I want what's best for them, and I'm all about testing to see what'll work.
Yeah.
Like what conversation worked with that gentleman to actually make the connection happen.
Right.
Right. And so then, letting him know I was willing and ready to make something happen. And he was willing and ready to say, okay. And so we kept pushing it forward.
I love how you make it sound so simple because I watched him give like value on value and value for like a year, right?
Almost. I think my initial connection was November of 2024. November, December.
Yeah, that's significant time.
Yeah, and then pushing 6 months.
No paycheck, right? Like,
no paycheck.
that's a significant amount of value to give someone for
Yeah.
most industries without receiving something in return.
True.
And you always had the vision and you always had the faith.
That's right.
And I know that faith is a big part of your life. That's actually how I would say our families grew closer was through our,
Yeah.
we attended the same church. Are you comfortable sharing how faith has guided you in your career, Jonathan?
Faith is my number one. So it's my is the guiding light. So it's not necessarily just guiding me; it's making the way. I know without God, there's nothing possible. Absolutely nothing. With what I can do, right? There's only so many doors I can open, but with God, every door that is open has opened with a purpose and with a reason, right? And then it's my job to put the action and effort into seeing what that's about.
That's right. That's right.
So that my faith, 100% God, all day.
And he's a man who lives what he says.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I found very impressive about you, and it really kind of like reminded me of my own faith, was a door closed for you. And it was a door that a lot of people would have felt broken if that door closed.
Sure.
And you straight up said, well, you know what? God has something better for me. and this is what I want. Give me what I need to get there.
Yeah.
And if you feel comfortable sharing about that, it was really amazing to me to witness all that you have done in that short period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll share. So the door, I'd say that was closed because there was a door open to get me from point A to point B at that time. Mm-hmm. That was a door that was opened. And when that door had opened, I knew, like, without any doubts, like, that God had opened it because I wasn't asking for it. I didn't ask for it. It wasn't on my radar of, I want to do this in life. I want to do this in this world that I'm living. It was a door that opened, and I took it because it just bettered the life that I had at the time. And I was working on a television network that came to Dallas Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. That was for what's called the Dr. Phil show.
Just a small show.
Just a small show. Well, you know, it's not real until it's real. Mm-hmm. And so it's everything you would think Hollywood would be for a production, right? Working behind there, the energy, the people, the connections, the producers, the hustle and bustle, you know. And so that door opened for about a year, and then it closed shortly after. And, you know, the relationships that were built and the connections that were made were important. But when that door shut, that's when I went full-time in real estate, which was just this year in February. So
just this year in February.
Yeah.
And you've already locked up some major developments that are going to have your brand and your name on them.
That's what gives me chills.
It gives me chills too.
Because, you know, I pray in secret things that I ask for God, and then God has made it happen, right? Beyond having to stress conversations with high net worth individuals, right? Having to go out there and make conversations with people in those circles, God has just said, hey, here it is, take it. And so I haven't had to necessarily, you know, do all the song and dance to get there.
Right.
God has just provided that open door.
It did appear while you were putting everyone in place that the partners just appeared.
They did.
It wasn't like you really had to stress. It was like you needed this and it came.
And that's where I would say it's so important if you're like out there in the world and you're like, what do I do? Just go.
Just fearlessly go. Have
just because you don't know what's going to lead to the next. Like I said, the whole nother story from my builder and how I made a connection with him was simply through TikTok. I met my guy through TikTok.
Interesting.
I saw his content on TikTok, social media.
Yep.
I reached out to him and I was like, I love your work. You do builds in the area that I want to be in. Like, I love the luxury brand you have there, the homes that you're building. And said, let me go see what you got. And what is out there? Let me see the type of build you're doing. And so we met for breakfast with Melissa, all three of us, over in Rockwall. And we connected almost instantly, him and I.
That's amazing.
And then he let me tour to some of his properties, and then I kept that relationship. And then when I came across this development in Highland Park, I'm near Highland Park.
You put all parts of that deal together, the funding, everything, right?
God willing, we found the lot, found the property, you know, and my wheels got to turning. And I was like, well, what if I do this? And what if I do this? And I connect these two. And then I had Braden here at Strat Lending. I think. Him and I developed a relationship, and then we started mixing that recipe, and it just happened.
And
took time.
I understand that Braden has been a huge partner for you as well.
Massive. Yes. Braden is probably one of the most important pieces to all the deals that we have going on. Just because he finds a way to make stuff happen.
That's awesome.
He makes it happen. as far as the numbers go, and making sure the numbers make sense for the lending.
Yeah.
And
You
make
just
sure.
gave me an idea. I have a deal I need to talk to him about.
Yeah, he's a guru.
Yeah, he seems very creative from what I've witnessed in him.
Very creative. He helped me buy my house. So.
That's great. So you gave me another segue. You just bought a home, and you mentioned earlier about going to breakfast with Melissa.
Yep.
In the past year, some very exciting things have also happened in your personal life. You are now married, correct?
We are married. First year as of yesterday. First full year.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
And Melissa is your business partner as well, right?
She's the boss, the business partner, my best friend.
And she's an amazing mother to your son.
Mother
as well.
to my son. I can go on and on. But if I go on and on, I'll get choked up. So.
Okay. What challenges come with working with your spouse?
Challenge, I'd probably say just being there all the time. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges is you need time to be away to miss, and
Sure.
you're not, so you're there. But it's a blessing too, because you trust that person. So
Indeed.
Yeah.
I've witnessed with Aaron and Carla that they have very specific roles, and that's something that
Yeah.
helps them in their business. So I've also seen a lot of other couples where it kind of creates friction. It seems like you guys are finding that perfect
Yeah.
balance between the two.
yeah, I guess see the friction there, and that has been voiced before, as far as the exhaustion of how I do things, and then versus how she does things.
And the business is hard.
And the business is hard, and so it's it works because, again, I'll go back to God, and I'll go back to biblical reasons, and her as a wife and the way she handles our marriage, that plays into work. All of it, like God's the root and we're the branches, right? And so everything plays into how, if you're treating your marriage and your relationship the way God sees it, that does trickle into business. And so the respect, the how the integrity of the marriage trickles into business, and how you treat each other and how you communicate,
Yeah.
right? Respectfully, and even though you're exhausted and you're frustrated. Yeah.
One thing I've noticed about Melissa is that she's an excellent gatekeeper of
Yeah.
your energy. Like when she doesn't think that something is worth your time, she'll kind of like make sure it doesn't affect you.
Oh, she will.
And that's a
Yeah.
blessing. We need that in this industry to know what's a distraction and
Yeah.
what should be welcomed.
I agree. She keeps things at bay. But she does that with everything, though. Like, she'll know she knows my likes and dislikes, so she'll just work around that. And I do the same thing with her. Her space is her space.
Yeah.
I'll leave it be if she wants it like that.
Melissa is the most polite. She has a wonderful
Oh,
way of tactfully letting people know what she's comfortable with and not comfortable with. I've
Yeah.
learned that from her, actually.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful skill she has.
Yeah, she's a blessing for 100%.
And you all brought on a team member recently who's doing very well.
Trianda.
Yes. How did
That's right.
you and Melissa happen to meet Trianda Cooper?
Trianda Cooper, I've known her way, way beyond far beyond I've known Melissa. I know Trianda because I used to own a business, a salon business, and I knew Trianda because Trianda was a customer of that salon business.
Okay.
And again, glory to God. I mean, honestly, that's a God thing.
Yes.
Because I got reconnected with Trianda at an open house in the last maybe 5 or 6 months ago. I think it was sometime very, very recent, where we were at an open house in Salina, and I was over there for a client of mine, and she just happened to be there, Trianda. She just happened to be in the
And you were like, "Hey, I know you." No,
And we
I know
saw
you.
each other, and I was like, what? She was trying. I knew who it was immediately. I had no second guess.
And she'd like just gotten her license.
I didn't know. I didn't know she was even trying to go in that world.
Interesting.
And so we just had a conversation, and I was like, "Who are you with?" And she's like, "I'm with so and so." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Well, she's like, and then she started just pouring out her problems, and I was like, "Well, we can answer those problems."
Yeah.
Because we do this over here, and then we got her on board, and then literally within the first 5 days, she had a listing under her belt.
She just picked up a stack of leads for me and has already called them.
I believe it. And that's the thing with real estate, I guess, just being an entrepreneur in general, you either have the fire or you don't.
Yes, totally. That girl has the fire.
She has it, and you can see it. And so, as much as she didn't know, she leaned on Melissa and I for a lot of conversations. I mean, just thorough contracts. And so, Melissa, I give her the credit.
And you gave her great advice because I heard about a lot of this stuff third person, you know?
Yeah.
And she would explain to me what was going on in the deals because all deals have issues.
Yeah.
And then I would say, well, what did you do? And I was like, how did this new agent know how to do that?
Yeah.
And it was advice that you and Melissa had provided.
Yeah.
And to be clear, like, they're not charging coaching fees. They're not, having her buy courses. They're just helping out of the goodness of their heart.
Yeah. No, there's no real estate mentor fee we're doing here. It's all, I want to see you win.
Yeah.
You win, I win, we win.
And she is winning.
And so, yeah, the time is, I'm only passing down what was passed down to me. So if I can give it, because it was blessed to me, I'm going to do it.
That's the right mentality.
Yeah.
Are you interested in helping more agents who have that fire like Trianda?
Anybody and everybody who's willing and ready to go, even if you're unsure, but you still know how to, you got to take action. If you're willing to take action, I am there for you all day, every day, twice on Sunday. So to me, if I can see someone who's wanting to put the effort, because I'm going to put the effort in. And if you're going to, I'll put it in.
Yeah, you said you were afraid to make the calls, but you did it anyway.
To this day, I don't think that's ever going to go away. It's just like when you play a baseball game. Like, you're going to get jitters before the game because you want to do well.
Yes,
Simple.
definitely.
Yeah.
Especially when your parents are watching in the crowd.
And that too. Yeah.
So Trianda, I think she's closed 4 deals in like the 6 months she's been here, something like that.
Yeah,
in like the worst market we've ever had.
Yeah, I forget about that, but.
Yeah, you forgot about that because it's not for you.
Well, I mean, just even in the conversations I have, I don't think worst or better market. I just think who can I serve at that time? How am I helping?
You're constantly looking for a niche, like a true entrepreneur, right?
Yes.
If transactions are down, that means prices are down. Jonathan's like, okay, well, I'm going to work for buyers because that means it's a great time to buy.
Yes.
And that's the mark of a true entrepreneur. You're always looking for where am I needed?
Yeah, 100%. But I will say, just for future, like this whole niche of new development and new build, I will 100%. This is the way, for me at least.
Do you think that you will need at some point a bigger team to help you service everything you're going to have on your roster?
I'm going to have a bigger team. I am very hands-on, and so I'm going to do as much as I can until I tap out.
Sure.
And I can't.
What are some skills that you would like to welcome onto your team? If someone watching has this skill, you would want them to reach out to you.
Most things outside of like what's innate can be taught. So if you have a willing and ready spirit about you, and you want and you have a hunger, if I can see that, and you have a business mindset, like that's your mind is business. That's what I'm looking for.
You'll teach them everything else.
Yeah, I'll teach them everything else. If I knew what I knew when I first started, on this side of real estate,
Right.
I would be so much further along. But again, it's God's plan. So
What do you think was the big switch for you? When you say, if I had known then what I know now, what was the big change for you?
I guess time has allowed for everything that has been so far. Like, time has been the biggest thing that is, if I look back, I wouldn't have known anything. Maybe if I had a great mentor, but if I had another mentor who was in this world, I'd probably be further along. But the biggest change, the biggest thing that happened for me was, I think, getting on a team that was going after it, right? Because when I first started, I was on a team that I was being fed. I was being fed leads, fed. And it was great for like a newbie, a new agent.
You wanted to own your own thing.
Yeah. But I didn't, when that slowly turned down and that drip started, I mean, that pour of leads started becoming a small drip, I didn't know what to do.
I think a lot of people are in that situation right now. I've actually noticed from the people that come into my live feeds that teams are starting to let go of agents, you know, telling them, I'm sorry, but we don't need you on the team anymore.
Wow.
So buyers agents, listing agents are now finding themselves on their own because they've turned off the leads, or the only good leads are just going to the team leader now because there's so few compared to what there was before.
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you. That was probably the biggest deciding factor for me to leave the brokerage I was at before. Was that. Because I got into a place where things were a little shaky on that brokerage, but I was still committed. Just what happened, I actually started seeing some different lead flow come my way when some things were falling through the loop, falling through. And so I quickly understood, okay, these leads are being kept from me on purpose because I'm a newer agent. And so anything that was $1 million or more, I would have never saw. And any new agent, they're never going to see it, and they don't know it.
That's what we call cherry picking.
That's cherry picking. And I get it. There is you want the agents that know how to handle that type of clientele to be able to handle that.
Sure.
And be successful.
So how did they determine that wasn't you?
Right.
I mean, clearly it is.
Yeah. Yes. And that was the nail in the coffin that made me, I'll say, I'm out of here.
And that's how it goes for most great agents like yourself. There's typically a ceiling to grow, right?
Yeah.
And the ceiling is whoever the team leader is. You can grow as long as you never grow bigger than them.
Yeah.
And that becomes an issue for many people because unless the team leader continues to grow, there's not going to be enough growth space for everyone in the team. And it sounds like what you found with Elite Builders was people wanted you to be better than them. They wanted you to grow past them.
And that's what, when I was on the fence, that's what happened when you were doing that with Melissa. I saw the true, want, because you were like, whoever wants this lead, just take it. And you're still doing it now. I got a stack of leads, go call them. And you've already vetted them. You've already gone through them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a step that someone doesn't have to necessarily go through, which is sometimes the hardest part, the initial call, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that's what really, really pushed me over the edge was when I saw you, how giving you were with Melissa. But that was it. The fact that you were giving, I'll never forget it. I was behind Melissa and you were like, and you gave her a lead, and I was like, okay, I can vibe with someone who's that giving. I can work with somebody who's pouring into.
I appreciate you recognizing that. And truthfully, I learned it from Aaron, Jose, Lars, all of our partners in business. I was recently on a call, and it kind of you know how sometimes when someone else says something, it puts it in perspective for you?
Yes.
I was on a third party call with Lars and a broker who does 250 deals a year and has all these agents. And they said, well, you know what I'm attracted to is your team.
Mm-hmm.
And she called Aaron and Jose my team, right?
Oh, wow.
Like,
Okay.
don't you laugh about that?
Yeah, okay.
But that's the beauty of this model when you think about it, is like your team is Aaron Novello, who sold 2,000 homes and Housing Wire Coach of the Year. That's your team.
I need to use that. That's helpful for me when I'm talking to people, because I think in real estate as a whole, you get in your own head and you get in your narrow lane and you're like, this is just all me. I'm by myself. Right?
Yes. That's a hard worker's mentality. Like, put my head down and work.
Correct. And so, but the reality of it is there is power in numbers, and as accomplished as you are, and then Aaron and Jose and John, other gentleman, John Hesh, is it
Mikish.
Mikish?
Yeah.
Those guys, Lars, I mean, they kill it. And so, yeah, that's my team.
That's your team, bro.
Those are my connections. Those are the people that I can reach out and have, and I do reach out. I think Aaron more than anybody else, just on little things here and there. But,
You know, Aaron is on his ministry path.
Yep.
And my understanding is that is your ultimate goal in life. Is that right? Or it's at one point in time something you wanted to do, right?
I've never wanted to own a brick and mortar church, but I think ministry is. I mean, everything I do is it's a reflection of God. It needs to be a reflection of God, where people can see that Christ in me, right? And so I think just living that life is a ministry, versus an attainable end goal, having something. Whether I pick it up and do a podcast or something that is its own what do you call it? Its own lane, its own branding, its own model. I think just me living the way God wants me to, and being the ministry as I walk, because when I walk into a room with any real estate, Jesus is gonna shine. Regardless.
Mm-hmm. And you had posted something recently. I think you were maybe a break dancer at one point, or it looked like you were, and you had said something about thank you, God, for, putting me on a better path or on the right path.
That was a long time ago. I
saw that post.
I did used to break dance. I used to do music. I used to produce my own music. I've worked with one producer, Eric Bozeman, who's done everything with anybody, Sting, Janet Jackson.
I can't believe how musical our group is. Do you know that Dave's brother is Jordan Knight?
Yes.
That's so crazy.
Which is crazy. Because I found that quite a little bit after. I was like, what? But, yeah. No, I love that. I love that about him. I love his energy. Dave is awesome. I love getting on the daily calls with him, and because I feed off of that.
His energy, it's
him
high.
and Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. But yeah, I used to break dance. I used to be great at it. Mm-hmm. I used to love it. But no, not anymore. But music, yes, music's always a thing. I think will be there.
Did you have any obstacles or challenges when you were younger that you had to overcome? I did. I was born and raised in El Paso. Mm-hmm. And so I dealt with a lot of racism. Really?
Being a white male over there.
Really?
Yeah. Huge piece of my, all the way to high school, was a large part of racism I had to deal with. So that was obstacles.
Share with me how that manifested itself and what it felt like.
I just think being in a minority city, and it sounds weird coming from me, mm-hmm. but it's a reality I lived, and having to deal with all that.
Yeah.
because El Paso is like 90% Hispanic, 95 maybe, and then the rest of it you have Army brats and all that because it's a Biggs Airfield is the biggest airfield in all the U.S. So
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Okay.
that's how I ended up there. My grandfather was in the military, ate lunch with JFK.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what did you learn from that experience?
Glory to my mother. Gracious to my mother. She's the one that kept me in church and pushed me always to be at church. I mean, I lived there.
Yeah.
Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, church
Probably
camp.
where you felt safe.
Felt safe there, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's probably, I would say, the biggest piece was being in ministry and giving, always feeding the homeless. There's a lot of that. So I've seen the bad of the bad. I've seen the worst, and then that's kept me humble. Just memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a son, and your son is multiracial, right?
He is.
And you probably have witnessed, like I have, some things that are not that comfortable for a child of multiracial background.
Yeah.
Has your experience dealing with the same type of comments or feelings been helpful to being able to understand what he's going through?
I've been able to speak to him on the situations he's gone through in the past, but I think the more they come about in the future, I think I'll be able to help him because I've been there. It's like completely flipped, right? The whole racial thing it's a completely flipped scenario, but I did go through it, so I can help him with on how to deal with it.
Sometimes what we go through is to help someone else.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the blessing in all of this, so you could help your son.
Has to be, because God does everything with a purpose. Like He allows things to happen. You may not know the answer right now, but that may play in the future, right?
Absolutely.
Getting into real estate. When I owned my own businesses in the past, and salon businesses, I dabbled into commercial real estate on the buy side and how to do a finish out of a building and purchasing that, developing that business, what that looks like. So it's played its way.
You're just selling a different product now.
It's a different product.
Yeah.
That's right.
Entrepreneurs tend to think like that. It's all the same. It's just a different product or a different service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truth.
Well, this has been enjoyable, Jonathan, and it sounds like you are really well on your way in your career, even though it's fairly new. You're only a few years into this, right?
I tell myself I have had my license 4 years, but I've been full-time 8 months, part-time a year and a half. So I'm only 2 years healthy into real estate, and so I'm just excited for what's next. Like, I don't even know.
What do you see for yourself in, say, 5 years?
At this rate, I mean, it's still going to be the same, helping people, serving people. That's not going to change. It's just going to, I would say it's going to be on different levels with different groups. And, as far as I will be owning multifamilies at some point. Yeah.
Awesome. So just bigger and bigger and bigger, like Grant says.
Bigger and bigger and bigger. That's right.
Go big and go bigger.
Go bigger, go bigger. Mr. Grant Cardone. Yeah, no, he's, God has a plan for him. He's most likely walking it out now.
Yes.
And he probably doesn't even know what's coming next on what God has for him, too.
Yep. It's been wild to watch him over the past few years and how things have changed. Definitely.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts you want to leave the audience with?
I think if I haven't stressed it enough, I'll say it again. Christ first, God first, in everything I do. And the reason why that's important is because there is what comes with that is the integrity when you walk that walk, the wanting to do right by people, right?
Starts with that, everything.
Yeah. And you know, God has called us to be, has called us to win and represent him at the best that we can. And if I'm losing, I ain't representing Christ, God, that good, that well, right?
Indeed.
If I'm not walking with a walk of excellence, you know, and that's what I was taught. I always lead with excellence. Do everything you can do with excellence. Yeah.
So one thing I did want to ask you is, because someone could be watching this in any market, you put together the deal that's going to make the developer and the partners a good amount of profit. Is this something you'd be open to discussing with other people in other marketplaces?
I'm glad you brought that up. Yes. If you are a developer, if you are a builder, if you are an investor, and you want to sink your teeth into new construction, new development with luxury properties, luxury homes, even if you want to get into developing a multi-family or a multi-plan development where you want to do, for example, a whole neighborhood, we have the ways to do that. It's I welcome anybody and everyone who wants to get in there in different markets. If you're in Houston, San Antonio, Austin, I'll stay local first.
What about someone in California reaches out to you? Would you at least consult with them or
I
advise?
will consult and advise anyone who's wanting to build wealth in the real estate world. I will absolutely consult with you because you know you can do what we're doing anywhere. And so even if you have your capital and your investment properties in different states, you can still use that to perform here. Yeah.
And if a broker is watching you right now, or say a high-level agent who's just been on the transaction treadmill, they want to do what you do, are you open to mentoring them or partnering with them to help them?
Absolutely. You just got to come with a willing heart and a great attitude. And if you want to see everyone else win alongside with you, absolutely. You are more than welcome to reach out, direct message, and we will hop on a 3-way, 4-way call with the team that I currently have now, and we'll get to work.
No gatekeeping.
There is no gatekeeping. No, because, you know, you got to have, your tribe is your tribe, and you know who you...
Immediately.
Yeah, you know who you work with.
Absolutely. I feel like you always know right away.
Yes.
Awesome. Jonathan, what is the best way for these folks to reach out to you?
So I'd say the best way to reach out to me directly is if you're on social media, is Instagram, just Jonathan Rockwell. That's my handle, is my name. Or you can reach me at my direct phone number is 469-970-0031.
Google his name and you'll find him.
That's it.
He'll be there. Happy to serve. Well, Jonathan, this has been enjoyable. Thank you for all the ways that you are fulfilling God's mission on your life.
Yes.
And the ways that you're empowering others and doing good work so that they can be better members of the community, better parents.
Yes.
It is a blessing to know you.
No, it's a blessing to be here with you, and I thank you for the opportunity to chop it up, hang out, talk, have conversations, and be able to reach out to those who want more of a community.
Absolutely. Let's go. Let's grow.
Let's go.